am malicious because I am miserable. Give me a reason to be gentle, and I will be gentle.
My name is Robert Walton. I write often to my sister in England, who is my closest friend. I have long dreamed of exploring unknown places. I commissioned a ship and crew, and now I am sailing to the North Pole. As we sailed through the cold sea, strange things began to happen. We saw a big figure in the distance. He was riding a dog sled across the ice, then disappeared. The next day, we found another man. He was weak, half frozen, and alone on a broken sled. We brought him aboard and nursed him. He seemed to be an educated person, kind but deeply sad. He warned me that if I continue my dream, it can destroy my life and those that I love. Though he was weak, he began his story of great ambition and tragedy. His name was Victor Frankenstein. What he told me would change how I see the world forever.
I am Victor Frankenstein. I was born in Geneva. My parents were respected and kind. My father was a man of honor and good judgment. They taught me to love learning and to honor family. When I was a child, my mother found a golden-haired girl in a poor cottage. Her name was Elizabeth. Our family adopted her, and from that day I promised to protect her. I also had a close friend named Henry Clerval. He was cheerful and full of imagination. We spent many hours together in our early years. I loved studying more than playing. I read old books about alchemy and astrology. Their pages spoke of hidden forces and the power to change nature. One summer, a storm broke over the mountains. Lightning struck a great oak and tore it to splinters. I learned that it was electricity that destroyed the tree. This was the start of my interest in science. My old books seemed foolish, as I read books about nature and true science. I had no idea then that my study of science would someday bring tragedy to my life and to those I loved. When I was 17, my mother became sick and died. Her last wish was that I should marry Elizabeth one day. I was heartbroken, but promised to always care for Elizabeth. My father sent me to the University of Ingolstadt in Germany. At the university, I met two professors. One mocked the old books I had loved. The other encouraged my interest in modern science. That second professor became my guide. I became his best student. I wanted to understand life itself. I studied day and night. I learned everything about chemistry, anatomy, and natural philosophy. I visited graveyards. I watched how bodies decayed. Slowly, I discovered something no one else knew, the secret of life. This discovery filled me with energy and madness. I was obsessed. I began building a new being, a creature. I collected bones and body parts from graves. I worked alone, in secret. I shut myself away from friends and family. I wanted to create life. One dark night, I finished my work. I saw the dull, yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed. It moved. I had done it. I had given life to a lifeless body. But instead of joy, I felt horror. The creature was huge and horrible. His skin barely covered the muscles. His eyes were watery and wild. I ran from the room and hid. When I returned later, the creature was gone. I became sick from fear and stress. By chance, my good friend Henry Clerval arrived at the university. He greeted me with such warmth that I wept. The strain of the past months broke my health. Henry nursed me back to life with patient care. He spoke of home and tried to keep all dark thoughts away. When I recovered, I did not return to the laboratory. I fear the horrible being I created. I forced myself to study languages with Henry and to walk under the open sky. For a short time, I felt at peace. A letter came from Elizabeth. She wrote of our family and of Justine Moritz, a gentle girl who had served in our house. Elizabeth praised her goodness and hoped I would soon return. Not long after, another letter arrived. My father wrote that our little William had been murdered. I hurried back to Geneva at once. The night I reached the city, the gates were shut, so I wandered near the lake until morning. A flash of lightning lit the mountains. In that brief light, I saw a giant figure on a steep rock. Its shape was the same as the creature I had made. A bitter certainty filled me. My own work had killed my brother. At home, I learned more. William had worn a small portrait of my mother. The locket was missing. They found it in Justine's pocket. She was accused of killing my brother. I knew she was innocent. I knew the true murderer walked free. I kept silent. Who would believe my story of life stolen from the grave? At the trial, Justine confessed, hoping it would save her, though she told Elizabeth and me that she was not guilty. The court condemned her. She was executed by sentence of the law. My heart was crushed. 2 loved ones were gone because of my doing. I was full of guilt and grief. I had created the real murderer. I fell into deep sorrow. I hated myself. I hated my creation. My family tried to comfort me, but nothing helped. I wanted to escape from everything. I went into the mountains. I hoped nature would calm my mind. The beauty of the sky and mountains gave me a little peace, but the pain remained inside me. I climbed high to be alone. That was when I saw him again. The creature. I was filled with rage. I called him a monster. I wanted to kill him. He did not attack me. He spoke in a low, broken voice and asked me to hear him. He said I had made him, but I and all men had rejected him. He asked for justice. His words were strange and full of pain. I wanted to strike him, yet I felt the weight of his words. My anger wrestled with a dark sense of responsibility. He said it was my duty to listen to him. He told me that if I heard his story to the end, I would see why he had become my enemy. In a cold cave high in the mountains, I sat down and listened to the story of this horrible creature I had brought to life.
Victor Frankenstein, you are my creator. So listen to my story. When I first opened my eyes, I was confused and scared. Everything felt strange. The light hurt my eyes. The cold wind made me shake. I could not speak. I did not know where I was or who I was. I wandered through the forest, hungry and cold. I found berries and drank from streams. There was a small hut. Inside was an old man eating breakfast. When he saw me, he screamed and ran away. I was confused and did not understand. When I entered a village, people shouted and threw stones at me. Women fainted. Children ran and screamed. I realized I was ugly. My heart ached. I ran into the woods and hid. I found a poor cottage near a field. An old blind man lived there with his son Felix and his daughter Agatha. I stayed hidden in a shed beside their house and secretly watched the family. They were gentle and kind with each other, but were sad and had little food. I saw how they cared for one another. When they cried, I felt sorrow too. When they smiled, I felt a little joy. I wanted to help them. At night, I gathered wood and cleared snow from their path. They never knew it was me. I began to learn their language by listening. I remembered sounds and practiced in silence. Slowly, I understood words. But I was still alone. I wished to join them, to feel love and kindness. Yet I feared they would scream and run like the others. When spring came, a young woman named Safi arrived. She spoke another language, so Felix began teaching her. I listened closely and learned with her. I learned about history, human society, and how people judged each other, about war, cruelty, kindness, and families. As I learned more, I began to understand my own feelings. I realized I was not like them. I looked at my hands, my reflection in the water, and I felt pain. I wanted to be good, but I was hated because of how I looked. I longed for someone who would look at me with kindness and love. I listened as the family talked about their past. The old man was de Lacy. They once lived in a rich home in Paris. Felix had helped Safi's father escape prison. The family was punished and lost everything. They had to flee to the small cottage in poverty. Hearing this made me love them more. They knew what it meant to suffer. I felt like part of their family, though they did not know I existed. I decided I would speak to them. I would choose a time when only the blind old man was home. He could not see my face, so perhaps he would judge me by my words. I found a small bag in the woods. Inside were clothes and 3 books. These books changed me. I learned about heroes, about God and the devil, about love and pain. I read Paradise Lost and felt close to both Adam and Satan. Like Adam, I was created. But unlike Adam, I had no creator to guide me. Like Satan, I was full of hate and sorrow. I also found your journal, Victor Frankenstein. I read how you made me and how you hated how I looked. Your disgust pierced through me. You abandoned me. I was filled with sadness and anger. Still, I wanted kindness. I went to the cottage when only the old man was home. I spoke gently. He welcomed me kindly and listened. But when Felix, Agatha, and Safi came home, they screamed. Felix hit me and drove me away. Though I could hurt them, I did not. But my hope died in me. I came back at night and found the cottage empty. In grief and anger I set it on fire and left the valley. I traveled toward Geneva to find you. On the way I saved a little girl from drowning in a river, but a man, her father, shot me. So you see, pain and rejection hardened my heart. Near Geneva, I met a boy. I thought a child might be more kind and gentle to me, but he struggled and called me names. When he said he was William Frankenstein, rage seized me, and I killed him. I took a locket from his neck and placed it in the dress of a sleeping girl he called Justine. I was sure the blame would fall on her. Now, you know why I am full of misery. I ask for justice. Make me a companion like myself, a female, one with my same face and form would not reject me. If you do this, we will leave this place. We will go far from the eyes of all humans and be at peace by ourselves. But if you refuse, I will be your worst enemy. I am malicious because I am miserable. Give me reason to be gentle, and I will be gentle.
How I cringed as I listened to the creature's demand. He said he would stop harming others if I create a female companion with the same face and form like himself. He promised to leave human society forever. I felt horror. I feared the birth of a race of monsters. Yet in my mind, I also saw the deaths of William and Justine. There can be no more deaths in my family. I agreed on the condition. that they must vanish to a remote land as soon as I finished the dreadful task. I gave him my word. The creature disappeared into the icy mountains. I went back to Geneva to spend time with my father and Elizabeth. I tried to hide my misery. My father noticed my sadness and urged me to marry Elizabeth. I asked for time. I said I needed to travel to England for research. Henry came with me. He was cheerful, full of joy. I wished I could share in his happiness, but my heart was heavy. While he admired cities and sights, I was thinking only of my terrible task. We reached Scotland and traveled through the countryside. I left Henry in a small town and found a quiet, remote place to work. There, in a hut on an empty island, I began working on the second creature. As I pieced together the second being, my doubts grew. What if she refused the creature? What if they had children? What if they both hated mankind and joined to wreak havoc? One evening, I looked up and saw him watching through the panes with a hateful grin. I felt my doubt and fear grow, so I destroyed the half-finished second creature. I tore it to pieces. The creature screamed in rage. He swore revenge. He said that he would be with me on my wedding night. Then he ran off into the darkness. I packed the remains of the second creature into a basket, took a small boat, and sailed into the sea. I dropped the remains to sink into the water. A storm came and tossed my boat. At daylight, I reached a strange shore. There, I was arrested for murder. Men met me with anger and brought me to the town official. A body had been found on the beach. When I saw it, I collapsed. It was my dear friend Henry Clerval. He had been strangled. I knew it was the creature who murdered him. I fell into illness and despair. For months I was kept in prison, weak and broken. When I recovered, proof showed I had been on the islands when Henry died. The court released me. My father came to bring me home. Grief and guilt burned inside me. I could not bear to talk with anyone. Back in Geneva, my father spoke of marriage again, hoping it would heal the sadness in our family. Elizabeth and I decided to marry. I believed I would die on our wedding night, as the creature had promised. But I did not tell anyone. I carried weapons with me. I was ready to face the creature. Elizabeth and I were married. We traveled to spend the night in a quiet house by the lake. That night I told her to rest while I searched the house and the paths outside. I thought the creature was coming for me. Then I heard a scream. I ran back and found Elizabeth lifeless on the bed. She was strangled by the horrible creature. He had kept his promise, but not to kill me, but to take away my happiness. I saw him through the window, grinning. I fired my pistol, but he vanished. I returned to Geneva. My father, full of grief, died soon after. I was imprisoned again, and again released, as they thought me mad. I went to the town official and told him everything. He listened but did not believe me. He thought I was mad. So I made a vow. I would hunt the creature myself. I left Geneva with only one purpose: to chase the horrible creature. He mocked me with signs and messages, leading me farther and farther north. I followed him through forests, across mountains, and into the endless snow. I reached the Arctic. Ice surrounded me on every side. I was starving, weak, and alone. Death seemed close, until your ship found me. You, Captain Walton, brought me aboard and gave me care. To you, I have told everything. You have listened to my long, sorrowful tale. Learn from it. Do not let your heart be blinded by ambition as mine was. Do not seek glory without thinking of the harm it will come to you and your loved ones. I created a monster, and in doing so, I destroyed myself. Now my life is almost over. I am ready for death, though I go in misery. Yet I hold one comfort. To the last of my strength, I tried to stop the hideous creature I had brought into the world.
With those words, Victor's strength failed. He grew weaker each day. His body was tired, but his mind was still full of anger toward the creature. When he passed away, I felt great sorrow for him. The creature came into the cabin. He looked at Victor and cried with pain. He told me that revenge had only brought him misery. Now, with Victor dead, he had no reason to live. The creature said he would go far into the ice and end his own life, so no one would ever see him again. I watched as he left the ship. His large form moved slowly across the ice until it disappeared into the mist. I was left with silence, the sea, and the memory of the tragic tale of Victor Frankenstein. My dear sister, when you read this letter, know that I will no longer continue with my mission. The crew fears the loss of lives as we sail through the strong gale and heavy snow. So, with a heavy heart and a lesson dearly learned, I let go my dream of exploring unknown places. Ambition must answer to conscience, or it destroys what it most desires.